No, leave it alone. Hey, leave it. Where's the live? Oh, that thing will not go away. Loki, it's over here. Come on. Hello. Alright, good. The voice was working. Yeah, I know, Loki. It came back. It keeps coming back. No, we gotta shut the door. Sorry, Kitty. What's wrong with me? I can't keep. I'm gonna take care of you too. Alright, I'm live right now. Come join me, everybody. YouTube.com/@FKTD. What's up, buddy? Alright. Loki, I'm telling you, it's outside. Yep, live right now. At FK8TD. Alrighty. What's up, fellas? Alright. Just give a couple minutes for a few more people to come in so that nobody misses the discussion. Hopefully this camera looks a little bit better. Seems like it does. Oh boy. The baloney text messages don't stop. Apparently, wow, why can't you see that? That's crazy. You can't see that? That's so weird. Maybe it's the glare? I just saw... That's so weird. Can you see it now? Oh, yeah. Apparently, I'm Kelly. I'm Kelly. It's been a long time, Kelly. Are you coming to our yacht party tomorrow? I've got sushi and steak for you. I swear, I think somebody just gave away my phone number. Oh my lord. Yep. Yeah, I got a little friend here today. Alright. So, let me put up one more post saying that it's live. And, or just repost the same post. I don't know. Maybe I should have boosted that post originally. Let me send it to the group. I think I'll just let people come into the live if they're going to come in. You know? Let them come in. So, like I said, it's just going to be just an open discussion for people to just join. And, you know, questions about their next goal, what they want to do. What is their current build? I mean, you know, that's pretty much it. Yeah, you can dare. Nice, Billy. Nice. And speaking of things, I literally just got some more housings in. And shortly before this live, Loki decided to give me a nightmare check, and unfortunately I had to induce vomiting because this little bugger decided to climb up onto the counter and eat all of his flea and tick medication, the Simparica Trio. He decided to just climb up on the counter. I don't even know how he gets up here. I'm telling you, this counter is this high and he gets up here, and that's a kitty that showed up at my door and will not go away and is trying to get into my house. So apparently I'm now a cat owner that won't go away. Oh man. I don't know if you guys can hear that thing crying in the background, but I can't have him in because he doesn't have any shots. So I explained to you, and I sent you a message today what happened. And I did send you a message earlier today, and I'm moving my website because of the issues that I've had to set up times for installs. So, I can't have that happening. So, I am setting up things differently for that reason. So, and I left you a message to text me, and I've been having problems with email, and it's a constant issue. And it's not on my end, and it's not something I can control sometimes. So, like I said, I'm going to do a new website where you can schedule in the website openings. If you're looking to schedule a service in a certain amount of time frame, you'll be able to schedule the appointment, make sure that's available. It's just going to streamline things a lot better for everybody. So, and I understand that. Unfortunately, like, I just have no control over the issues on the other end. It's literally the company that deals with the email is linked. It's both linked through Microsoft and GoDaddy, and then linked back in through WordPress, so it goes in a circle. So, unfortunately, there's just nothing I can do about that. So that's why I said I'm going to make a new website and solve that problem by making a new website. And so that people can have a nice little peek. There it is. There is the new website. It is under construction. And I will be adding, you will find there will be a section where it says appointments and available times for tuning, available times for dates and times for services. That will solve all those problems. I just can't have that stuff happening, especially when it's not in my control. It's frustrating, and it makes me look bad when it's not my doing. So I do apologize for that, but anyway. So, unless you didn't get the email, because I definitely have one sent back to you, but that was earlier today. So, and I did not get an email I did not get some of the emails from 4 days ago until this afternoon. So, here's the problem. It's paid, like I said, it's subcontracted through another company, and it's becoming a pain. Loki, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Ignore it. It's not coming in, and you're not going to let it in. What's up, Sour Patch? Alright, so let's get started. So let's do this. Let's do this. Anybody what is everybody's goal? Let's start there. What's your goal? Let's start there. And even if I already know it, put it in the chat, right? And I'll just spit back the shortest, simplest way to get to that goal. So let's start there. Let me get something to drink though. And as always, I have something special. A little special something for everybody later. Is it? It's coming through distorted. Hold on. Hello? Is it? Oh, great. Alright, hold on. Tools, settings. Alright, let's see. Alright, how's that? Alright. So, what are the best bolt-ons parts you can buy to make around 410 wheel horsepower? Okay. The best way to do that, and you want a guaranteed 400 to 410 wheel horsepower guaranteed, flex fuel, Catless downpipe. Definitely need to do some type of upgrade in the exhaust. Maybe not a pure 3-inch exhaust. And at the very minimum, an intercooler on ethanol. It's got to be on E30. 93 in straight methanol on a stock turbo, that's going to be really hard to accomplish. Or on 93 octane, I mean, that's probably the cheapest way, right? Like flex fuel, downpipe, intercooler, and exhaust. That's probably the easiest and cheapest way to do it. Now, the other way to do it is going to be a good exhaust. Now, this gets a little more difficult because we're staying on pump gas, right? So we're staying on 93 octane. So if we stay on 93 octane, it gets a little bit tougher. So on 93 octane, it's going to be at least, say, MHI Stage 2 or an RV6 turbo, an NVIDIA R400 exhaust, a Mishimoto intercooler, and definitely a Catless downpipe. A Catless downpipe is not a must for a drop-in turbo, because that's the question. Is a Catless downpipe a must for a drop-in turbo? No, it's not a must, but it's really very recommended, because you're literally going to kill at least a minimum of 300 to 500 RPM of spool, and you're definitely going to kill 3 to 4 pounds of peak boost. You're definitely going to kill those two 100%. Like, there's no way around it. Now, and you're welcome, more than welcome. It makes it, the Catless downpipe, even if you get like a 5-inch downpipe, I've still seen, even with them big 5-inch downpipes, you still just, there's not, it's, God, my brain is scavenging, okay? There is a scavenging effect to when you don't have a downpipe, or when you have a Catless downpipe, and the exhaust comes out, it's getting hot, colder, 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 colder. Anything hot wants to go to the cold, right? So when you take it and hot exhaust comes out of a turbo, and then you go back to the downpipe, and then you reheat it in the catalytic converter, it just slows down the exhaust. So it's going to really kill spool. Catless stock downpipe is 4-inch or so, next down to 2 inches or so. Oh, yeah. Yes, this is true. Anything hot wants to expand. So, like, when you have a catalytic converter, you're literally just going to make the exhaust expand back out. So now you create back pressure. It really doesn't matter. You're going to create back pressure. I should do a live on how the hell did I make 850 wheel horsepower. You know? I mean, come on, roll into questions, everybody. Come on, let's hear them. I mean, there's 17 people in the room. There's got to be more people. What suspension mods, if any, would you recommend for 400 wheel horsepower roll racing? So, I would say for 400 wheel horsepower, if you're going to do suspension, I would say Swift Springs is awesome. It's a good initial setup. That's plenty good generally for roll racing if you're going to do like a 60 roll. Are you kidding me with this thing? Get down. Dang it. This cat will not go away. Hold on. I became a cat owner and I don't want to be. You get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. The cat's climbing on the window. I would say springs should be more than enough and a good set of tires. So, you can do like an anti-lift kit, but at 400 wheel horsepower, you're not really going to spin too much unless you're on a higher tread wear number tire. My goal is to save enough money by December to buy 2000 cc XDI ported manifold, free fuel line, Walbro 450, and a couple other stuff. So it sounds like, obviously, Sour Patch, sounds like you already have a significant turbo size. I don't remember everybody's turbo, so. Any gears out there you recommend for high horsepower and roll racing? I would say stay on stock gears as long as you can, because the stock ratio is awesome. You know, that's really
especially when you can get the RPM, because if you can get to 8,000 RPM, you can do a 60 to 130 in third gear or fourth gear, and it's a badass roll race car at that point. Because then at 600 wheel horsepower, you're in low sixes, like if you can get it to stick. So, I mean, I went mid sixes on stock suspension, knocking the tires off. Will E85 destroy stock components? Some, yes. The E85 will sometimes, it will destroy some of the fuel filter assembly, right? So what'll happen is the filter will come apart, and it will also hurt the brushes in the pump, in the factory pump, and even the aftermarket pumps. When it sits, the brush turns into, like, it degrades the brush, and it turns into this black soot-like stuff. It mixes in with the filter material and just makes it all fall apart. I don't know if it's because it's abrasive, but that's the big problem. So is there a huge difference between Mishimoto, like PRL intercooler, and Mishimoto? Yes, there's a massive difference. I have yet to find a way to make a Mishimoto intercooler climb in temperature during a run. I cannot get one to overheat, where even the PRL intercooler, even on a stock turbo, the temperature will come down and then climb back up. The Mishimoto is far superior in many ways, and generally on 93 octane, it's worth, if you've got a fuel system and a bigger turbo, 40 wheel horsepower. 40. I'm not kidding when I say 40 wheel horsepower. Is the Honda CanFlex better than the other flex fuel kits? So I can't answer you on that. I'm not saying it's not bad. It's realistically, it works differently. So, man, this thing does not give up. Are you destroying my screen? Please do not destroy my screen. Somebody just drops off animals at the gas station, and they end up like coming to my place. So, the CanFlex, that is very distracting. No. Go away. Ignore it. The CanFlex goes directly into the computer through a program, and it reads it just like it would read another module in the car. The advantage is probably, I'm going to say, more than likely reliability over time, and maybe accuracy, I don't know. But I don't even run the CanFlex, and I just lost the screen here. Leave it alone, Loki. You're making it cry more. It may or may not be more accurate, but it's close enough either way. I really don't think there's a big advantage to one over the other. So, for big enough for intercoolers, if you're holding off on buying an intercooler, the Mishimoto is I have yet to find anything in that price range that can compare. And I mean anything. Because you're going to have to buy pipes for any of the intercoolers to have the piping with it. And the Mishimoto eliminates the little oval, that weird oval O-ring that is a restriction. And it eliminates on both sides, and you have true, and it's not only that, it's 2 3/4 inlet and outlet. So there is no intercooler in that price range that can compare. It just, nothing touches it. The only thing that's better are the Ultimate Racing, which is $1,000 for just a core, or the Reggie built one, which I had him make and now is sold. Everybody sells. So he made a jig off of mine. How do you get around E85 destroying components? Well, you can either replace the filter assembly, or you can drain it out. So you can basically drain the system, like make sure you drive out the ethanol out of the system. Don't leave it in there. Yeah, I know that thing will not go. It will not go away. I have tried to get. Well, you basically either that, or like I have a filter assembly that, basket assembly that replaces all the components in the back, and that solves the problem. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. You're gonna go in your pen now because you're making it cry more. Let's go, in. Come on. Oh, God. Alright. What do you think potential safe horsepower on 93 will be with the setup we're working on? I'll be honest with you, making much more than like 500 on 93 is difficult. You can't run an intercooler that gets hotter. As soon as you start hitting IATs of 100, 110, it just starts to knock. So it's extremely difficult. The only person I know that I made clean, repeatable over 500 is going to be O'Neill's Car. He has an Ultimate Racing intercooler, which is a Garrett core, which is essentially the next size down core from what I have now. So yeah, if you have the PRL and PRL piping, I would definitely say it's a good upgrade to get to Mishimoto. Serious note, a 450 series in-tank fuel pump will be needing a long the race hypersprint to accomplish 750 wheel plus along with Motec, correct? Yes. That's really, even so, it's a pretty, that thing is just destroying my window. Give me a minute, guys. Destroying my screen. Oh, I guarantee he'll be back in 5 minutes. I just go put him out by the end of the shed. Alright. So he's back already. Oh boy. So the Wagner tube and fin, it is, here's the problem with tube and fins. They do a great job at cooling. I'll agree to that. But the fin is so small, you basically end up with boost pressure stuck inside the compressor cover. And actually, it's kind of funny. Like, I just happen to have this, but for different reasons. So basically, you can basically end up with, you'll have, inside the compressor cover, you'll have, say you see in the boost pressure on the charge pipe, you'll see, say you see 30, but you might have 38 psi on this side because you've backed up 4 or 5 pounds of boost inside the compressor cover because you're trying to push it through a tube and fin. The basket with just the unfortunately, the price had to go up because I just got double whammied in 1 week. Because the Integra Type S, the cylinder heads went up $200, and because the Integra Type S came out, the baskets, if you're buying a whole assembled basket, it went up $100. If you're buying the components, Chris's number, you're just gonna, it's somewhere around the 700 mark for the Gen 2 assembly. What do I think about the Perrin intercooler? I wouldn't buy it. It is cheap. It's like PLM, it's cheap, and it's not really great. I have a customer who has one, and he's on a similar size turbo, and he's got 4-piston ported head, whole 9, Motec, external wastegate, hood exit, and we can't get more than 32 pounds of boost because it just doesn't flow enough. Perrin is really no better than the PRL. I'm really not I mean, maybe it'll cool a little better, but mainly for roller racing. So I would say somewhere in the 500s. If you want for road racing, upgrading a radiator, I'd say if you're on a stock block, I say somewhere around the 500s would be a very good idea. That'd be a really good kind of area to upgrade a radiator, because you're gonna have better cooldown time overall in the engine. And even though IATs play a role, if your engine's running at a constant 200, 210 degrees, you're going to be more knock prone. And you're also going to be more likely during your runs, you may see a coolant temp of 210, 205, right? But how hot is it getting up at the top of that sleeve where the head gasket is? And a lot of times, there's two ways that you crack a sleeve, and that is over aggressive tuning, and then or pop a gasket, or just heat. And what I've seen is with the heat, it will lift the head first, knock the gasket out between the two cylinders. You'll blow the gasket dead between the two cylinders, and then what'll happen is then it breaks the sleeve from there. Oh my God, this thing. Other than XDI pump, DW300C, and injectors, what else do you need to run flex fuel? The high pressure line, I mean, you don't need it to run flex fuel, but you need it with an XDI pump. You definitely need that for actual fuel flow, but you don't really need, and obviously the flex fuel sensor. But again, if you're running flex fuel and you drive the car like 15 miles every day, you're gonna turn around and not really have as much of a problem. The basket, I'm sorry, Chris, I don't have the price off the top of my head. There's too many products listed on the website, and you have to option out which part of the basket. Like, do you want a DW with it? Do you want a Walbro with it? Do you want the whole assembly with it? Those are options that are in there. So you'll have to just take a peek at the website. Any brand radiator that you'd recommend for FL5 and or DE5? At this point, I don't have any good data on that stuff. All I can tell you is that the only radiator that I've seen that was cost effective, and the two brands that I know that worked, okay, so I know Koyo and PWR worked for the radiators. And Derek Chen, your PWR question, I'm sorry, I missed that earlier. I just remembered. I'm assuming you were asking about the PWR intercooler. I believe that also might be tube and fin, but a different style. I can't answer you about the flow on that, but I know nobody buys the PWR intercooler for bigger horsepower. For the money it takes to make over 500 horsepower, could you have an 8-second Gen 2 Coyote Mustang? No, you can't. No, you really can't. You really can't. I don't know where the idea that you could make I don't know how you're going to go 8 seconds in a Gen 2 Coyote unless you're just throwing crap loads of nitrous at it. It doesn't take. You buy $2,500 turbo, $25 fuel system, and you're talking like $6,000 or $7,000. To make 500 wheel horsepower. Maybe 8,000 to make 500. If that, I would think be a lot more than go $8,000 to do a Gen 2 Coyote, go 8 seconds. So the trans fluid mix that I run, it is, where'd it go? It was Mishimoto, and they're coming out with for the DE5. That will just be patient and make sure the intercooler is big. So the trans fluid I run, it is a synchro mesh, a good synchro mesh mixed. It's gonna sound weird, about half a quart of the Lucas Trans Service with 2 ounces of Liqui Moly Ceratec. So it's 2.3 quarts. So you put half a quart of the Lucas Trans Service, like the big old thick stuff, and 2 ounces of Liqui Moly Ceratec, 3 ounces, and then top it off with synchro mesh. use a good synchro mesh, not like an Amsoil or like a Delco synchro mesh. That thing is destroying the screen again. God, and this is killing me. God, holy cow. The kitty I never... Man. I am trying to find this cat a home. Alright, so the 60 to 130s I have is way old in this video, and it was, it's in my old videos. Say, cooling like hood vents or front fascia related to aero cooling show any difference in performance, any recommendations? So in the FK8, 1000% get the biggest open grill you can. That's definitely something you got to do, because you need that airflow over the radiator. As far as for hood vents, that stuff's more track use oriented, not so much street. But none of that hood vent stuff does any real good unless you've got air coming in from the front to push it out of the engine bay. So I would say yes, but to a certain extent. What's the cost to reach a certain horsepower on the Type R? It becomes exponential, but so that's a hard question because it always becomes exponential. That's a very kind of being a little more specific. How much do you think a 1.5 TSI make full bolt-on 27.1 W3? So now they make a W3 turbo, full Honda fuel kit, your head port, and trying to push the 1.5 to the max before I engine swap. You can, okay, how much can you make versus how much before it goes boom? There's a big question there. The biggest answer I don't have for you is the fact that the 1.5T on that turbo, I don't know where that turbo ends. I can just tell you that without the Honda cam on 40% ethanol, I did make 398 on Angel's car on 26 pounds with room to go in the turbo, but not as much room in the fuel system as I'd like for the RPM I wanted to run. So again, this was totally stock bottom end, but I really would not go past like 300 torque and 400 horsepower in that scenario on a stock bottom end. If you're going beyond that, I would imagine like 4 on ethanol, like 450. If you can really get that turbo to make the boost, 450, maybe more on and we're talking not a hub dyno, we're talking dyno jet, just a straight dyno jet number. Again, hub dyno, you can add another 5 to 7, maybe even 10% depending on the dyno. So it's very hard to say with that turbo. Never gone 8s in a Mustang, would ask that. Oh, yeah, well, everybody's got... Yeah, okay, but you're paying Gen 3 Coyote kit, but then you've got, in order to go 8s, you got to put $4,000 in the fuel system. So you're already at $12,000 to $12,000 plus the trans is not going to hold up to go 8s. Like, it just stop Coyote Gen 2, yeah, it'll do 1,000 more horsepower, but there's a lot more to it than, like, the shop I work at part-time, we build 1,000 horsepower Coyotes. So I know how much it takes, and it takes a lot more than what it takes to make 500 on a Type R. A lot more. So, like, feel free to go look at the Let's Go Automotive page. There's a guy I know that's there that's selling a Mustang that's a Coyote, and he makes 1,200 on a blower, which is stupid power. Do you have any experience with P0011 and P0016? That's going to be more likely. It sounds like you have either a timing issue, or maybe did you install cams, or you may have a problem with the reluctor on the intake cam. God, that thing will not go away. It is ruined. Again. I'm going to go put it in the shop and shut the shop door. Why is that? I don't know. It doesn't matter. 600 horsepower on a stock head cams and prototype 7 series. No, it is not. 600 horsepower is not possible on. I don't care what other numbers are out there. I challenge anyone to come here to my dyno. That is a direct challenge. Come here to my dyno with a stock head, stock cams, and a prototype 7 series. Without nitrous, okay? Without nitrous, I challenge you to come to my dyno, and if you can do it, one, I'm going to put a camera down the intake manifold. Two, all right, I'll pay for your dyno time. That's how confident I am. So, you're not going to do it on stock cams. You're not. I'm going to tell you why. Because on a G30 770, now a prototype 7 series is a great turbo, but it does not, I've proven that like a 25-660 can make 30 to 40 more of the wheels than a 660 can, and just like a 770 can make 40 to 60 more of the wheels than a prototype 7 series, because you're not restricted by housing size. So it takes 32 pounds on a 3770 with cams, maxed out ignition timing, maxed out fuel, and ultimate racing intercooler, full true 3-inch exhaust to make 620 on a G30 770. And it was done on stock bottom end with a head that was never off. So the head bolts were never even touched. They did the springs and retainers on car. So that's not going to happen. Not unless you throw nitrous at it. Got back from the latest FL hurricane. Oh, geez. How you guys doing down there, man? Like, I'm hoping you guys, everybody in Florida is okay. You know, I really am. Like, benefits of traction tuning. Oh, yeah. So, typical, even with a sticky tire, okay? And I mean a good sticky tire. Say somebody has a 60 to 130 at 8.3 seconds. It's usually worth at least 0.3 of a second in that scenario. And this is somebody shifting 3rd, 4th, 5th gear. So it was worth 0.3 of a second in that scenario. So there is a huge gain to be had there. MAF housing to cool, so the IAT 2 temp is down. Pull too much air charge, or just zero it and run water methanol, make the air charge in the IAT table. So I would do that, Thomas. I would say just watch your, as I know you do a lot of stuff yourself, I would say just watch your boost position, like your boost wastegate position, to make sure that's not slammed shut. So, yeah. So, Tampa, I am well aware what it takes to run 8s on a Coyote. I'm well aware what it takes to run 8s, period. Running high 9s to mid 9s is actually not that hard on a lot of platforms. You can run 9s sub 700 wheel horsepower in this platform. You can do it. You can. And that's what the impressive part, but it's all suspension and transmission to get you there. You can do it. How do I know this? Because if a guy can turn around on a stock trans, dumping it in 2nd gear, going 2nd gear, 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear, and run 10-2 off a trailer, making like 650 wheel horse, having to shift it on a clutch dump, and not using a slipper, and he made 650 on a glory pull. So, yeah, the fuel system, 4K in the fuel system, yes, but it's like you do it once, right? So, that's your goal, to do it once. That's the whole idea. But understand that, like, that's the more expensive part of this car is the fuel system, unfortunately. MAF versus MAFless tunes. What pros and cons? There are no cons to a MAFless tune. Zero. Zero cons. Okay? Zero. Alright? The only slight con, okay? I don't know if you really want to call it a con, because it can be tuned out with injector timing, is the way the car behaves at low RPM on a ported head at like 2,500 RPM. There's a slight difference down there. But as far as fueling accuracy, repeatability, and having the car not knock boost completely out of it, because even if you have the temperature reduction via MAF turned down, it still does it. There's background stuff we can't turn off. The running the MAF creates an extra IAT calculation offset and an extra fuel calculation offset, and the fuel system responds slower and more erratically. So having a MAFless tune is actually faster and more accurate. So 500 for better turbo for 500, 530 for track car or R660 anti-surge or MHI stage 2. Alright, that's a pretty good question. Do you want to... They're both good turbos, but they're better suited for different tracks. The RB6 does it better for RPM, more RPM, and the MHI is a little bit more efficient in the fuel it uses at full boost. There is a benefit to some back pressure, and that is that some back pressure will cause you to burn less fuel in the combustion chamber, and it will burn a lot of times with some back pressure a little faster, which makes it more efficient. So if you take too much back pressure off, the car does become fuel hungrier, but you stretch the RPM out much further. So there is some give and take there. The MH, they both can spool similar, but I think the MHI does a little bit better job of making low RPM torque. The bearing codes need to be... Does the crankshaft bearing codes need to be followed? If you've sleeved the block and or did change the crank, you cannot use the bearing codes at all. But here's what I'm going to tell you as far as the bearing codes be followed. I don't care what those codes say, I'm going to measure the actual bearing clearances. Okay? I'm going to measure the actual bearing clearances, because I don't even trust what comes out the factory, because I've measured what comes out the factory. And when a block heats and heat cycles and cold cycles over time, those tolerances change. They definitely change. The whole block moves around a little bit, so that's, you know, that's like... Now, I want to say something about the Cool Road Plus, because I keep seeing that brought up. I don't know what they compared it against, okay? But if they compared that against an MHI and tried to say that it would make 60 more horsepower than an MHI, no, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to go with that. And I'm not going to go with it because I watched the way that dyno was done, and there's a problem I have with it. The problem with a hub dyno is at RPM per second, you'll hear it when a dyno runs. It like shakes as it goes up, and every time that brake goes and tries to catch that RPM per second, if it starts to go too fast, it tries to grab it and pull it down. That gives you an artificial number. If I want to see a comparison between two turbos, I would sit there and say you need to put them on a dyno jet with a set weight roller. you can't change the Sura comparison. Now, some dyno jets do read different than others. Different days, different weathers. But if you're going to do the comparison, I don't want to see it on a hub dyno. There's too many ways to skew that number. There's just too many. And that Kuro will never rev to 8,000 RPM. You never. Okay, but they need to do it, whatever they were trying to compare it to on the same car, on the same dyno. They should have a hub dyno picture on their website and try to say it made 60 more horsepower. A G25 660 does not make 60 more horsepower than an MHI Stage 2. You're going to tell me a Kuro is better than a G25 660? Like, I don't know what they're comparing it to. No, I don't make my own 2500cc injectors. They're made through XDI. I'm one of the few people who actually sells them because I can tune them. Ported fuel rails? Yeah, I gotta check the prices on those. Because I guarantee that went up too. Because I'm about to get beat up on that too. Because I just got beat up on 2 fuel baskets and a cylinder head. And lost hundreds of dollars. You know, it's what my customer paid, so I'm going to honor it. No, there's no MHI 1. I think you're probably talking about a stock MHI. The drivability is fine on 2000cc injectors, both on 93 and on ethanol. If you tune all the pressures properly, it's perfectly fine. The only thing you get is like a 50 RPM surge on 93 sometimes, like just like very mild, and it's just one of those weird things that happens on Honda. Hey, yeah, King Kong, listen, you don't need to do that. We're just going to port your rail. And they're talking about a brand new fuel rail. I'll bet you they went up too. I'll bet you they went up because they were like 550 last I checked. That's just like a regular kick in the. Trust me, it was a kick in the gut when I went to the dealer and I was like, "Yeah, let me get the price on the cylinder head." They're like, "Yeah, $1,450." I'm like, "Oh!" I was like, "Really? No." And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "What do you mean? That's retail." They're like, "No, it's $1,700 now." I was just like, "Oh my god." Let's see, what did they jack the price of a fuel rail up to? What did they do? Let me see, number 3. Oh my, yeah, that's up another $100 too, so that's got to get adjusted on the website too. Now they're $650. So yeah, the idle at the 2000cc and idle can be a little strange, but there is nothing to worry about. Okay, I'm assuming you're talking about porting a cylinder head. If you're saying about the Prototype 7 series, will the exhaust pocket radius in a G series make a difference? Yes, yes. Yes, because the Prototype 7 on Carlos's car in 28, I think it was like 28 and a half, 29 pounds, made 613. So yes, it's done on Carlos's car. Carlos has that done on his cylinder head. I figured that's what you meant. How much would you recommend cams and ported head for L15? So here's the thing I don't have info on, okay, on the L15. All right, I don't have fuel control information on upgraded cams in the L15. The problem is I don't know if it's going to do the same weird thing that it does on the FK8, where fuel trims will suddenly go ballistic and jump wailing at like, I think it's like 5,500 to 6,000, and then at like 7,200 just flood it rich when it gets to a certain amount of volume. Yes. Would I go Kelford cams over TR2s? Yes. And I'm sorry I ever sold my Kelford Stage 2s. And that's another topic for another day. I wish I never did that. In a nutshell, everyone swore that a certain turbo would make more power, and I thought I overcammed the turbo, so I sold those cams and went smaller, and it was absolutely nothing to do with anything but the fact that that turbo just does not make the power they claim. God, that thing's like a broken record. I don't know how it has the mouth that doesn't stop. Do you think the cooler we get like IAT could compensate for lack of head flow to a degree? That's a good question, and that's a perfectly suitable question. And I'll agree that yes, to a certain point, to a certain point, yes. And when you cool down an inlet charge, right, and you're spraying methanol on the charge pipe, you are absorbing heat, and when you absorb heat, it shrinks. So you do, to some degree, actually get more air in the engine. So, pre-intercooler can actually be worth 5 to 10 horsepower to literally spray 500 cc of methanol before the intercooler. It can, because I literally have a nozzle, and I tested this, on the turbo where you would normally have the input for the blow-up, for the bypass valve. I run my blow-up valve differently, and it actually helped horsepower by 10 horsepower, but this was at 600 wheel horsepower. So yes, it can help. Is there anything needed for a Kelford Stage 1 other than the valve spring kit? Yes, you need phase limiter pins. I wish I had a track close by. I have a crappy 8th mile track. Just garbage. I have a garbage 8th mile track. I mean, it is so bad that I can put 3 more pounds of boost in third gear on the street. Oh God, this thing. Alright, I'm putting this, I don't know what to do with this thing. Like, God, no, Loki. Damn it. God. Thing's breaking my camera. It's breaking my outdoor camera. It's tearing that thing up. I'm starting to lose my patience with that thing. It's like I'm getting ready to just start making a whole lot of noise with like a pan or something. Like just bang a pan and maybe it'll disappear then. Maybe this will work. There you go. Noise. Go. Go away. Go away. Go away. Stubborn bugger. Put it in the pan, yummy. Oh, you're bad. Oh. No, you started pulling my camera down off the outside. I'm like, oh my god. Oh boy. Car, I don't know. Something's testing my patience today. You know, the crazy part is, I've never seen this cat before. 2 days ago, it shows up. I hear some meowing underneath my porch, and it won't leave. Do you really need an intercooler if you're running flex fuel? Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah, you have to run an intercooler. The stock intercooler is terrible. How reliable are tier 2 cams with stock internals? It's not a matter of the cams being reliable, it's a matter of your whole setup being reliable with stock internals. Tampa, don't curse me, man. I don't have time for a new pet. I barely have enough time for Loki. It's just a matter of like how you tune the car and how much torque you try to keep the car within reason, right? Like you don't want to have the torque get out of control, right? It depends on how, like, where you make the torque and the RPM. Like the earliest, so I do have a car I just did recently that does make, by like 3,700, it makes 400 foot-pounds of torque. That is the limit, right? At that RPM. So, but when you start climbing RPM, you can push more torque in it later. So, it's more just how you control the torque on camshafts. And more about like the torque and the RPM and everything. Like you don't want to go past, you don't, on stock internals, you don't want to rev past 8,000 RPM. You don't. That's really pushing your luck. Anything past 8,000 is pushing your luck. But like, again, like your turbo size plays a role. You can start pushing a little more power because you got less back pressure. So here's what I want to say. If you have a G25 660 on a 72 housing and you have a G30 770 on an 83 housing, you will make less load on the engine at the same torque on the larger turbo because you are not losing power to back pressure, so your actual strain on the engine itself is lower. So I hope that makes a lot of sense. How far would you able to go on 93 octane? If you're on stock head, stock cam, 460, 93 octane. If you're on 91 octane, 420. 91 octane is just terrible. And this is both with a good intercooler. This is the most stubborn damn cat. That little bugger's trying to come in my house and everything. So you heard the G25 660 saying other tuners say it causes too much stress on the motor because it's fast spooling. Well, I can't blame the turbo for being good. Whereas a turbo fault or tuning, I would say that you're just pushing too much in it down low. Like, you can't really be mad at a turbo for making a whole lot of power early, right? I mean, you can't go, well, oh, the turbo was so good at spool, your motor blew up. Well, don't put the power in down there. I have a car that's on a 25 660. It does make 450 torque but not until 6,000 RPM. 6,200, and down at the very bottom at 3,500, it's, I think, I can't remember exactly. Oh, this darn screen, I forget the screensaver. I can't remember exactly, but I think that's around 380, 390 down at 35 to 3,700, which is still a lot, but it's been fine for over a year. Oh, okay, so apparently somebody had some problems with it. Yeah, so the 25660 will make an astronomical amount of torque at like 3,200 to 3,500 RPM on a stock motor if you let it. If you lug it, if you let it, if you put a whole lot of air charge in it down there, because a lot of tuners, and I see it all the time, even all the people that the people follow, they'll have this crazy boost command down below a certain RPM, and they don't even pay attention to it. They just figure the turbo's not going to hit that, so blah, blah, blah. Except, you're dynoing in 4th gear, and people will be people, and they will do what they do, and they will put that car in 6th gear, and go, I'm just going to stay in it, because I don't got a downshift, and then, poof. And that's exactly what happens. So, when I say Garrett is Rampage kit, so yeah, that when I say G25 660, I'm talking about Rampage kit. It's Garrett kit, yeah. Well, that's awesome. They waited till 9 o'clock at night to tell me my prescription was ready. Yeah, it's a Garrett turbo on a Rampage kit. No, you don't need to be sorry. It's an honest question. You're not horsepower limit on stock pump and stock injectors is going to be 430. That's it, and it all depends on what dyno you're on too. But 430 is it, and you're pushing it hard. You're stretching the fuel system as far as it will go. It can always be done. It can be done with a camshaft. There was a camshaft option out there for the Accord. There was. The pump was the biggest thing to come up with. There was a camshaft option out there for the Accord, but I couldn't get anybody to bring the car here so that I could install it and do the tuning on it. So I was going to do it, but everybody just didn't want to, just be what they want to be. Say a Honda fuel system, G3770 to 27.1 exhaust. So we're talking a first gen Honda fuel system. You're not going to make more than 470 on ethanol. And that exhaust, but we also don't know if you're on pump gas. So you say G3770, Honda fuel system, and 27.1 exhaust. Here's the problem. We don't know what intercooler it's on. We don't know what fuel it's on. But if it's on 93 and it's got a crappy intercooler, you're never going to see like 450, 460. If you got a great intercooler, yeah, you'll see upper fours. And if you're on ethanol, you're not going to get more than 470. It's not going to happen. There's not enough fuel out of that pump on E40. And that is the sweet spot. What's the most we can overbore a sleeve? Loaded question, I guess. Stock sleeve, 0.5 millimeter. That's it. 86.5 is the limit. The most you can go before gasket sealing really becomes a nightmare on a sleeve sleeve car is 88 millimeter. That is the absolute edge of even a sleeve block due to the gasket size material and the bore width and other problems you run into, like you gotta have the pockets for the pistons and stuff like that. Even on a sleeve block, there's no real gain benefit by boring to an 88 millimeter bore for like 5 to 10 horsepower on a 600 horsepower car at best. So I just say try to stick to the smallest bore size to closest to stock you can. Is there a point that you need valve guides or upgraded valves when upgrading valve train? Yes. If you're going to make 600 in short spurts, you do not need guides or valves. Okay? The valve train on stock cams on certain size turbos will handle 7600 to 7800 RPM tuned properly. And R6, you cannot go past 7800. And I know there's some people out there that said, oh, great tuner, I rev to 8000 RPM on stock cams. No, it valve floats. 1000% it valve floats past 7800. I promise you, if you actually put it on a dyno, it goes boom like a tank, like somebody just threw it off a cliff past 7800. So and again, you can't have back pressure. You can't do it on a P700. You can't do it on an MHI. There's only 3 turbos you can do that on. Technically 4. Okay. But you could do it at 25660 with a 92 AR, the bigger exhaust housing, an RV6 660, a G30 770, and a G30 900 can all be revved up there. You can't, however, smash all the boost in the world near the rev limit because you're going to create exhaust back pressure at some point where it does cause the exhaust valves to hang and start to float on stock springs and retainers. Even if you upgrade the valve train, any other turbos than the turbos I've still said, I would not go past 7400. Like P700, MHI Stage 2, Kuro Plus, all that stuff, I would not go past 7400. You're gonna kill a gasket, you're gonna kill a turbo, you're gonna kill something. Break a rocker arm, something. Have you tune anyone on fully 85? If so, how is it? Any benefits from going to fully 85? Yes. Carlos's car, MHI Stage 2, ported head, TO2 cams, 25 pounds. E73 was as high as the pump ethanol red, and it made that fuel left to go. So, yes. And we were on full E on his Prototype 7 Series 2. We kicked it down a notch thinking we would need the room, but it was so much more efficient with less pumping losses compared to the MHI. Could have still probably made 600 on that on full E. And it was an XDI pump, my high pressure line, 2000cc injectors, ported fuel rail, and my basket assembly Gen 2 with a Wolbro in it. So, and we kicked the ethanol down to 68%, 68 or 65%, and there's still room to go at 600 plus. Is there a way to go from a 2 to a 2.2 on this motor, but I know you can do it in the S2000? So, I know for a fact the later version K24 crank plops right in. The reluctor wheel for the crank is even in the same damn spot. The thing is, I don't know about the clearance for the rods. You need custom rods and custom pistons. So you can put a stroker in there, and I don't know if that crank alone will make it a 2.2. I do know that it fits. It fits. It does fit. So technically that would be a stroker crank. So you have to worry about, man, no, that's a sleeve block thing. and custom pistons, custom rods. The other thing is, deck height clearance, and that's a lot of work for maybe not a lot of gain. And I want you to keep in mind it is an offset crank, so a stroker motor. These cars, so here's the thing, because the crank is offset, the geometry is a little bit weird. The piston goes up the bore faster than it comes down the bore. So the problem is, since the crank line is not centered, your actual piston speed on the way up is faster. So, well, if Skunk 2 tried, Andy, you're saying Skunk 2 tried it, but apparently Luke has a 2.3 liter in there. So, and I had a K24 crank here, and I'm going to tell you that 100% all the journals mic out to the exact same spot. So, and while the center of the crank is different, that's still not an issue. That's got offset crank is not the issue. The issue is clearance of the wall of the sleeves is the issue. I'm not something I'm going to attest to, but I can just tell you I've had both cranks because Reggie has a crank, K24 crank, and obviously I had cranks floating around. I put them side by side to every measurement, and everything lined up. Is it worth the juice, worth the squeeze, though? No. So it's just like, I don't remember if it was, I believe it was Spoon that said the FL5 trans does not work in the FK8, but it does. And they tried to do it at a race. They said it didn't work. They skipped it, but it works because 2 of the wires needed to be changed on one of the sensors. And you have to file the edge of the sensor off and plug the sensor back in, and everything, including a rev match, works. So I take when people say something doesn't work with a grain of salt till I see it myself sometimes. So I'd be hard pressed to believe that it doesn't work. I'm just not spending $400 on a crank to throw it in there and sit there and see. The biggest thing I would imagine that you might run into crank weight rotation in the way, and that's still fine because the K20C1 has lighter rotating assemblies. Well, I don't know if it was the Z, which crank it was. I just tell you the later K24 cranks are telling you he's got one over there, and it lines up. It lines up, man. So if maybe on an Accord, I don't know. I don't think the Accord crank is any different. So Luke literally asked me at one point, did I want to buy his stroker kit? Like, hey, do you want to buy? I was just like, yeah. I was like, eh. Will I remote tune a car without a dyno? Sure. Well, it doesn't matter what the setup is, as long as we're not doing something insane. Like stock bottom end, I want to make 680 horsepower on stock bottom end. Let's street tune it. No, I'm not doing anything like that, but most cars, yeah, just street tune it. I would imagine that you might need to notch the sleeves a little bit, and obviously, like I said, custom pistons. I would imagine you're just going to beat on the pistons for very little squeeze, juice out of it. Alright, King Kong, man. I'll see you later, man. Let me check on Loki. You good? Because you were a dummy earlier and you ate something you shouldn't have eaten. You still good? What? Yeah? Yes. Yeah, it does. Andy, you're right. The reluctor is in the block. It's in the same spot. The reluctor the pattern's supposedly even the same. The same 3-bolt pattern. The reluctor's cheap. I as far as I know, the only difference between the older K24 and the later model K24s is the reluctor gets moved into the block. That is supposedly the only difference, as far as I know, on that crank. Is literally the only difference. I don't know of any other major changes or differences on that crank. So. Oh, while I'm here, this, ladies and germs, is a FK8 to, yeah, so just noticed the shirt, an FK8 to T3 flange. Yep, it does work. Now, with this turbo, the problem with this turbo, as you can see, the volute is really long. So this will not fit in a standard setup. But if you have, and I really like this because if you look at the size of the opening and the comparison, the transition is a lot cleaner here. Alright? Flow-wise, this should destroy, I'm not kidding, I say this should destroy the other, like the standard V-band, because we're going from an oval to a circle in the other one. And I brought this for reference to try to compare when you're trying to make those changes over. See this? Now it might be taller, but the port's already more square than it is a circle from the factory. So you can see how the T3 is better suited for transition into a turbo on this. Now the next step is to find an appropriate turbo for this. So, I mean, so Andy, the one thing I can't do is I can't confirm, other than the fact that the crank I had, it was an older K24 crank, and I know that the journals it all lined up. I don't remember, I think the snout was even the same length too. LPG or CNG conversation on K24, it's a 110 run, and, oh. And a Chinese war whistle. Now that was this is a Borg Warner EFR 8370. I've had this for a hot minute. I've had this for a while. This is a legit Borg Warner EFR 8370. This is about a little bit bigger than I think a 3900. It's good for upper mid sevens, I think. But I would love to see, I think, the thing is though, I just don't know if they make, yeah, see that has internal gate, so this would be fantastic if you've got the room in the engine bay. The Type R, problem is that turbo, because it sticks out so far and it's so tall, it's a harder fit in the engine bay of the Type R. It will fit in my engine bay, but people with a rad support, it may not. Oh, no, oh, okay, gotcha. No, okay, yeah. Oh, I'm sure plenty of Chinese copies, I'm sure, like your Pulsar turbos and whatnot. And this is pretty cool. You know, the the heavy-duty hardware, and then nice titanium pieces. Yeah, the full race manifold comes out and down, and that does not work with a 30 series. Yep. So, the way I've got my car, I know this is going to sound nuts, I can. Was it the 351050? Yeah, was it? If I had made a custom downpipe, I found a way to use that and the damn spacer to put the 351050 in the engine compartment to give it more room to breathe, but it would have needed a custom downpipe. And that would have given it the full race manifold and the G35 1050, pull it away from the cylinder head, give it more room to breathe for more RPM. But I found out with everything I did to the cylinder head, it doesn't care. I can make power at 9,500 RPM if I wanted. I could easily make power out there. Love to show a dyno sheet, but somebody ate it. He literally ate my dyno sheet, and he ate my paycheck that week too. He literally ate my damn paycheck. Bugger. Thankfully I was able to just get another one written out. I think I'm almost done here though. And I'm tired of hearing that, so I'm getting ready to go in the other room because I don't want to hear that no more. Oh, man. Yeah, man, I have 3 of those full race manifolds. I literally have 3 of them, man. I got no use for them, man. They're great on little 25-660 turbos. I'll tell you this much. When I made 614 on 31.5 pounds, stock cams, with just a ported head, I did really great using that setup because they had a 2.5-inch outlet pipe with the blow-off valve, and they have that on the head. It does a fantastic job on that particular setup. It's spooled like an animal, but damn, man. Alright, Tampa. Yeah, man. Be safe, man. He says Hellcat. Good luck dealing with the Hellcat. It's a Hell Kitten. That's what I say when I see a Hellcat here. They're like, hey, you want to race your Hell Kitten against my Type R? No, I really don't say that. It just sounded funny. Alright, everybody. Thank you for joining. Appreciate everybody popping in. Let's hope we can find a couple more setups for this. You know, I'm looking at some other older Garretts that will work with this. Will now make some of the older generation Garretts work perfect with the Type R. So, yeah, I know about the 3770 struggles, man. It's a squeeze in the Type R. So, but you gotta go crazy and do like I did. Get a fabricator and get a rad support mod. So, alright. I appreciate everybody for joining. I'm calling it a night. Thank you so much. And look forward to the new website. Will be up in the next couple weeks. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna streamline everything. And it's gonna be for tunes and appointments. You know, just service appointments and tunes. So that's going to be the majority of it, and the higher end stuff, I want to say the elite stuff, is going to be what's distributed on the website. So it's going to be more of the higher end, best of the best stuff only on that website, and the other products, we continue to support both websites, but like I said, all the appointments and everything else are going to be done so it can be streamlined through there, and this way I know the appointment's made, I'll get the notification correctly, and not have to hunt through emails or deal with additional text. I can just put the time out there, like, look, here's the times that are available, block that time out, and that's it. It's just that simple. So just make it much easier for everybody. So I thank everybody for joining, and I'll see you on